And we are back. My name is Andrew Montana, hosting the third episode of HTF Bets here in Season 8. But it's been a while since we talked football on Hitting the Field. It's going to come out on Combine this time tomorrow, by the way. But as Super Bowl Sunday approaches, we want you guys to be as prepared as possible to talk football that Sunday. And when it comes to Hitting the Field and football content, we know you're just feeding for more. Now, if you guys haven't guessed, we're going to be talking some NFL award predictions, followed by the best fantasy performers in the NBA. And last but not least, our surefire picks of the week, where two hosts will actually be blasting mariachi music right into their ears. So don't go anywhere, because we've got a great episode of bets for you right after this quick commercial break.
Get it, boys.
And we are back. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us throughout the commercial break. But before we get into the segment, I want to introduce our very first Andrew 2.0. I'm kidding. You'll take over one day. I got you. Andrew Greig making his best debut. How are you doing over there at the couch or the stool?
I'm doing good. A couple of my parlays didn't hit this weekend, so it's a little upsetting, but overall I'm having a good day.
Of course. If the main show segment has its rant segment, or the main show has its rant segment, we have our own ranting segment to vent about how our money is not going to be made. But anyway, to my left as always, Giovanni. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good today. How are you?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Now, Ezra, how about yourself?
Pretty good. Smelling like money, feeling like money.
He does smell like money. Anyway, we're going to be highlighting 4 of the upcoming awards to be announced at NFL Honors. We'll also throw in some odds for that respective award. With that being said, I'm going to pitch it off with my MVP and my favorite player.
Shocker.
Yeah, it's a hot take. It's a hot take. Okay, hear me out. Lamar Jackson, right? He's currently sitting at minus 20,000 odds on FanDuel. His odds range from minus 8,000 to I guess as low as minus 20,000. But yeah, he's been phenomenal throughout the season, the regular season. Well, I guess the Houston game as well. But he's the leading passer for the Ravens, obviously. He's got over 3,600 passing yards, 230 yards per game, 24 passing touchdowns, and 7 interceptions throughout the regular season with a rating of 102.7. He's also the leading runner for the Ravens throughout the regular season with 821 rushing yards, 5.5 yards per attempt, which is the most among any Raven with 50 or more attempts. Followed by Gus Edwards, by the way, a running back who was second in both of those respective categories, alongside 5 rushing touchdowns and 51.3 rushing yards per game. And then if you just add that all up, the rushing yards and the passing yards, it adds up to 281.3 total yards per game, which is phenomenal. I mean, if you got a guy who can take care of it in the sky, on the floor, that's a threat regardless. And as a result, it led to the best team in the AFC, playing in the best division in football, like without a doubt. Every team in the AFC North had a record of what, like 9-8 at least?
Yeah, minimum.
Yeah. Positive.
Yeah, I think the lowest record was like
They were all 500.
Yeah, 52%. But yeah, he led the best team in the AFC and had the best record, actually. So you could debate in the regular season that the Baltimore Ravens were the best team in the league.
Not the playoffs.
Too soon. But I mean, yeah, I don't know if anybody else wants to pitch in. If not, then I'll get right over to the other Andrew, Mr. Greig, right over at the stool with his Offensive Rookie of the Year.
So my Offensive Rookie of the Year pick is Puka Nacua, and it might come as a shock to some people as C.J. Stroud has odds ranging from minus 1,500 to minus 2,500. But in my opinion, Puka Nacua had the best possible wide receiver season like anyone could ever have. He won hit the most receiving yards by a wide receiver in NFL history for a rookie, and he also had the most receptions with 1,486 receiving yards as well as 105 receptions. And in general, he put up stats that are unheard of for a rookie wide receiver. In a very high-powered Rams offense, he stepped in as the #1 weapon, and from week 1, he just took over the role and was amazing at what he was doing. I also think that availability is the best ability, and he played all 17 games, and with getting 160-plus targets in a season, it's hard to do that as a rookie, especially he was injury-prone during college, so him being able to make it through the whole season gives him a slight edge for me, and I just think he's the most deserving player for Offensive Rookie of the Year compared to some of his counterparts.
I do understand that. I do, because as a very big fan of C.J. Stroud, considering he came from my favorite college in Ohio State, I do understand Puka Nacua because he broke records. People were saying, oh, it's a competition between them two because, oh, C.J. Stroud made the playoffs. Puka also did. Puka was the #1 option over Cooper Kupp this season, even after Cooper Kupp came back from an injury. So I believe that Puka Nacua definitely is a great pick here, in my opinion.
Also, I do. Oh, yeah, good.
I was gonna say, is it possible they could share the offensive?
I would love for that to happen. I would love for that to happen, but I think when it comes to awards, there shouldn't be sharing.
Yeah,
you should be able to win it
100% agree.
outright.
Yeah, like the NBA dunk contest back in the early mid 2010s when they shared the award, it was not it.
Yeah,
But
I remember
I
that.
do want to pitch this back to you, Andrew, because we look at CJ Stroud. As of now, he leads the Offensive Rookie of the Year odds. But just so you guys know, we did have instructions that somebody has to pick an underdog, so there's that for you. But there's also Puka. What about other players like Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and
Bijan Robinson.
Bijan Robinson? Yeah, sorry, I forgot his name.
In general, I just think Puka is the better player out of all those people that you named.
Really?
Shout out to Sam Laporta. He's probably a top 3 tight end in the league. And Bijan Robinson is amazing at running back, just being used the wrong way. But I think that Puka just throughout the season has shown that he can be consistent, and he's like one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He actually, the 1,486 yards was the 4th most in the league out of any wide receiver. And he went for 4 games of over 150 yards, which is the most in NFL history since the Super Bowl era started. So just insane stats for a rookie, and in general, I just think he's the better player out of all the other people that you named.
Without a
crazy.
doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
And well rounded response, by the way, bro. Good on you. But next, I'm going to pitch it over to Giovanni. You're going to be talking about your Defensive Player of the Year, who's also kind of like a bit of a hot take.
Yeah. I know only one of us had to pick an underdog, but I went with TJ Watt for Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know why he's sitting at plus 400 on FanDuel, but it's his 3rd time leading the league in sacks, which I believe is an NFL record. He had 4 forced fumbles, 19 sacks, and I believe he's been a top 3, top 5 defensive player.
Definitely,
arguably
yeah.
The best defensive player.
Arguably number
for the
1.
last couple of seasons too.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Steelers, I feel like their offense was horrible this season.
Yeah, you can say horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their defense really led the way.
Yeah,
And
led to a positive record.
yeah, and even making the playoffs, I would say their defense and TJ Watt played a big part of that defense.
For sure.
And I'm okay with Myles Garrett being, I guess, the favorite, but having even Micah Parsons above TJ Watt.
Dallas
Insanity
did have
to
a
me.
crazy good defense, though, especially in fantasy.
I would argue Pittsburgh's defense was better, though.
Pittsburgh defense. I had Pittsburgh defense for my fantasy, so I know personally how good they've been this season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what you guys think about that.
I'll pitch it over to Ezra, actually.
I
Let me hear
mean,
what you guys say.
I'm not super opposed to it. Like you said, he did lead the league in sacks on one of the better defenses in the league. So like you would think he'd be a little bit higher, especially higher than Micah Parsons. But I mean, it could go to any of those 3.
Yeah,
it could go to any
yeah.
of those 3.
The 4th candidate in this is Max Crosby from the Las Vegas Raiders. He's currently sitting at plus
Another great
5,000.
season.
Yeah, he had a phenomenal season and just tore up the AFC East. But I think in terms of how this is all going to pan out for Defensive Player of the Year, I love your pick just because you can make a good amount of money on this if it hits. Because realistically, it's kind of a 3-way tie. Maybe even Micah Parsons a little bit out of that top 2 candidacy. But, you know, put down $5 on TJ versus $5 on Myles Garrett, TJ's going to give you more money if it lands. So I love that pick, truly. And then last but not least, Ezra with your Defensive Rookie of the Year. Actually, shout out Isaiah because he actually met him and was like good buddies with him. But
Yeah.
let's see what you got to say.
Yeah, I went with Jalen Carter. It's not really a shock to most because Will Anderson had a great season toward the back end, but to start, he wasn't that great. Kobe Turner had a very underrated season on the Rams, and Devin Witherspoon was great for most of the season, but I think Jalen Carter's really got to be the guy here. Like we have like one of the best run stoppers in the league already next to Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox there. And then he also had 2 forced fumbles, even returned a fumble for a touchdown. He had 6 sacks, 33 tackles. Like this is next level stats for a really, really underperforming Eagles team this year, might I add. But that front 7 is still more good than ever, I would say, especially since the Eagles found a way to get this guy at 9, which I still find baffling. Absolutely baffling. I think minus 225 odds is pretty good here. All the rest are like plus 225 and up. So I think this is probably your best bet to make because nobody's really coming close.
And yeah, I can't even think of another defensive rookie, like just off the top of my head, besides Jalen
Will
Carter.
Anderson had a good season. Kobe Turner had a good season. But Devin Witherspoon had a good season.
He ate up for Seattle. I remember him being a deep threat, but not against the Baltimore Ravens, of course. But Andrew, I'm going to pitch it back to you, actually. Is there anybody who you think deserves maybe an honorable mention for any of the picks, maybe even for your own offensive rookie? Well, I mean, we already talked about
Laporta,
I keep blanking.
Bijan.
Yeah, like, are you talking about like offensive rookie?
CJ. So let's just toss it over to MVP. Who do you think is a good runner-up for MVP?
Personally, for MVP, I'd have to say that As a Dolphins fan, I
Don't.
want to. Can I throw Tua in there or no?
No.
Is
I
that
would
not
rather
allowed?
Tyreek than Tua.
No,
I would
it's-
rather
it's
Tyreek than
I'll probably Tyreek is probably the better choice actually. Tyreek had an amazing season, over 1,700 yards. The only player to have back-to-back 1,700-yard seasons. So I think he's a great MVP candidate if we're not going with the quarterback.
I wish he played more games. He definitely probably could have had a chance to be
That's
honest.
true. Yeah, and if you're going to talk about Tua, put him in Comeback Player of the Year, which, by the way, we're going to be talking about on main show, so stay tuned for that. But thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us, and great job on your debut, by the way. That was, like, phenomenal details that you had. But next up, after this quick commercial break, we will be talking about some of the NBA's best fantasy performers. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, my name is Tyler Brownrigg. I hope you're enjoying watching whatever show it is that's playing right now here on Hitting the Field Network. And if you're interested in more of our shows or want to know more about the one you're currently watching, don't worry, I'm here to tell you. Our week starts off on Mondays with HTF Bets, hosted by the Bets Boys, Andrew Montana, Ezrah Hines, and Giovanni St. Cyrin. You can catch that show live Mondays at noon for all things betting in sports. I highly recommend it. And then you can follow it off on Tuesday with The Combine, hosted by the illustrious Ty Patton. If you're in for a more laid-back, kind of podcast-style show, a lot more casual, that is definitely the show for you. Maybe you'll catch some Ty Squared action with me on there. Wednesdays, every week, you'll be able to catch the vlog, learn about what's going on behind the scenes here in the studio at Hitting the Field, get to know more about us, especially the people behind the camera, who they are, and what we do to make these shows every week. And on Thursdays, live at noon, you can watch the main show with me as your host every Thursday, where we'll be covering all of the major storylines for any sport, be it football, basketball, hockey, soccer, you name it, we'll be talking about it on the main show. And then Friday, you can watch Nighttime with your hosts, Matty Glass and Patrick Previty, for all things college sports, especially with a focus on UCF sports and maybe the ones you haven't heard about so often, like tennis or women's track and field. It can be anything college on Nighttime. And if you're interested in joining Hitting the Field and you're a UCF student, DM us on any of our social medias at Hitting the Field, and also give us a follow on all those, and subscribe to this channel if you want to catch more of our content. But enjoy the rest of your show. As always, I'm Tyler Brownrigg, and I'll be seeing you on main show.
And we're back. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us. And to my right, we got a new face. Mr. Jeremy Bellande, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How about you?
Doing all right, doing all right. But I'm looking forward to what Ezra has to say over at the board with some of the most impressive and disappointing fantasy players throughout the season. Ezra, what do you have for us?
Yes. So, I have a list comprised of many good names, very unexpected names, and also a pretty big name that should have been a lot higher. That a lot of people thought would be much higher this season, but yours truly said he wasn't going to be. So I'm very excited to be able to bring that up to you. But we're going to start off with the good players first. To start, I had Derek White here. He's right now point guard number 8 in all of rankings. And I can tell you now, I don't think anybody really expected that, especially when he's on a very stacked Celtics team. He's averaging 16 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists with 2 stocks a game on great shooting splits, almost 50, 40, 90, may I add. And he's above players like CJ McCollum, Tyler Hero, Jaylen Brown, and Bradley Beal. Some of those guys have been missed a couple games, but this is based off average fantasy points from the games that they have played. So this is a very high-performing season for Derek White, and I don't think many people expected it. But up next, I'm going to talk about Scotty Barnes. We're talking about a guy that made one of the biggest jumps by far was really good, but now could potentially be superstar good. We're talking about a guy who's now power forward 5 in the league, above guys like Domantas Sabonis, Paolo Banchero, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Zion Williamson. Injuries again, but I still think he'd be higher than him. He averages 20 points per game, 8 rebounds, and almost 6 assists with, again, almost 3 stocks per game. He's been fantastic this season. He's shot almost 50% from the field, about 36% from 3. Still really, really high-performing team. Even though his team may not be that good, he still performs very well. And then I want to move on to one little bit more unexpected name to see on here, Jalen Johnson. We're talking about this. I don't think anybody expected him to be a second option this season on a, really bad Atlanta Hawks team. But with Trae Young being such a ball hog, not ball hog being in a bad term, but more so just like he's very ball dominant for his team to be able to play good. I wouldn't expect Jalen Johnson to be averaging 15, 8, and 3 with almost 2 stocks per game. And he's shooting very well as well. Still shooting 54% from the field, shooting 37% from 3. Above guys like DeRozan, Franz Wagner, Mikal Bridges, Brendan Ingram, all very good small forwards. He is above these types of guys. And I think he deserves a lot of praise. And I don't think many people really even drafted him this year. So the fact that you're able to even pick him up on waivers is nuts to me. And it's almost like similar to the Puka Nacua situation, other than Puka was like a rookie coming in, whereas like people kind of expected, Jalen Johnson to be at least something this year. But I'm going to start getting onto the bad names. I want to talk about Jordan Poole for a second, because this is the guy I was discussing earlier that I was talking about, where I said a couple shows ago last semester, he's not going to be good. And look at that. He is shooting guard 34. So in terms of fantasy rankings, if we can go through every single team in the NBA plus 4 more and find better shooting guards than Jordan Poole right now. He's been very bad. He's averaging 16 points per game, same as Derek White, who's a 5th option on his team. He's averaging 2 rebounds and 3 steals, or 3 assists, not even a steal per game. Terrible shooting splits, I believe 40, 30, 80. So it's not even, it's very underperforming season for him. He's under guys like Dante DiVincenzo, New York Knicks, Bruce Brown, Max Strus, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. There is nothing that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope does on the floor other than 3 and D. How are you, as a great scorer and decent playmaker, so far underneath this guy? It's actually baffling to me. But we do have one more player. This one, it's kind of harsh. I expect him to be a lot better this season. He showed a lot of flashes in his rookie season, but he hasn't been that solid this season, even on a high-performing team. And we're going to talk about Benedict Mathurin. Benedict Mathurin right now is small forward 36. And small forwards are very hard. Good small forwards are very hard to come by in NBA fantasy. So I want to bring him up because he should have been one of the top guys. He really should have. He's under guys like Alstar Thompson, a rookie on a very, very, very bad Pistons team. Taurean Prince. What does Taurean Prince do that should be better than Benedict Mathurin? Arguably nothing. Absolutely nothing, in my opinion. He's under Dorian Finney-Smith, which I'd argue is a very solid fantasy pickup. He does a little bit of everything, but Benedict Mathurin realistically should be higher than him. And he's also under a guy who just started getting minutes not even a couple weeks ago in Vince Williams for the Grizzlies. We're talking about a guy that gave the Miami Heat 20. I know Giovanni's very happy about that. But we're talking about that guy when he shouldn't even be on the same page as Benedict Mathurin right now. I feel like that's just very, very underperforming from him, in my opinion. But that's all of my picks, realistically. I think I had pretty good picks. We're going to throw it back to the boys at the desk. What do y'all think?
So let's start off with Derek White, because I think that's a really good point that you made, Ezra, that he's, just performing at this caliber. But what's baffling to me is that he's doing so on an established Celtics team, because going into the season, Tatum's going to do his thing. But I thought Jaylen Brown was going to do his thing as well. Last season, he put up a career high, 26 points as a second option. That's insane. Now he's dropped off. I drafted Jaylen Brown, right? And so I'm kind of ticked off about the fact that he's dropping off the way he has. Now Derek White, bald man over here, I'm glad he gave up on the hair, by the way. It was just awful, like some Stephen A stuff. It's just coming in, doing everything for the Celtics that Tatum isn't doing, and it's working out beautifully. Even with Drew Holiday sharing the guard position with him. Like, what do you think about Derek White?
I feel like, as a Heat fan, please don't ever ask me what I think about Derek White.
What do you think about Derek White?
I can't say.
What do you think about Derek White?
That buzzer beater was lethal. The buzzer beater.
I want to hear your opinion on Derek White.
But yeah, Derek White, he's probably, this hurts to say, he's probably the best role player in the NBA.
OG Anunoby.
At times, better than OG Anunoby. At times, he doesn't even look like a role player. Ezra is crazy for saying he's an all-star, but sometimes I do believe him. And Derek White, he's a great shooter. He always hits big clutch time shots, and he's arguably top 10 guard defender in the NBA.
Oh, so. That's for sure. But Ezra, I know you want to pitch in as well.
Yeah, I thought you brought up a good point, Andrew, how you talked about how Jaylen Brown's taken a step back, and I really wanted to go over the fact again that I did say that Jaylen Brown is below Derek White. Jaylen Brown is below Derek White in fantasy rankings this season. I think that's more mind-boggling than anything. And I do want to touch on the All-Star comment. He's only averaging 12 points per game this month. He's been really bad for this past month. His all-star hopes are gone. Jeremy, back to y'all.
Jeremy, do you think this man is worthy of an all-star? All bias aside?
Honestly, I would say so. When you really look at Derek White, he's honestly one of the best people to have on a role player on a team. He does everything that you would need. Oh, you're talking about Jaylen Brown, right?
No, Derek White.
Derek White. Okay. But no, Derek White does everything that you would want him to do for a role player. I'm not gonna lie. If I was a GM, I would look at Derek White as an option. I would offer him some big money.
All-star though?
All-star? I think he could make it if he
could sneak in if like one or two other guards, I think,
Kyle
take a
Korver.
step
Get
down.
injured.
no.
But now we're gonna talk about Scotty Barnes real quick because he's been an interesting little man. I will say, I don't know why I phrased it like that, but I will say, Ezra, one thing that did kind of throw me off, Domantas Sabonis clears him, especially in fantasy. We're talking like what, 20 points per game, maybe a little bit less, but I mean in that margin, on top of the greatest rebound, okay, that's a big word, but like the best rebounder in the NBA, like 12.7, plus like 6 assists on like solid splits on a good team. That's all I'm gonna say.
I think it's the defense that does it.
The
it's
defense
the defense
is fine. Scotty Barnes is gonna give you like what, one or
Scotty
two more
Barnes
stocks
averages
per game.
almost 3 stocks a game.
That's fine, but
I mean, when you put it in that perspective, stocks are very high value in fantasy.
They are, but it depends on the formula you have like set in. Because in our league, I know it's all weird that like steals and blocks are like 4 points, but there's other ones where it's worth 1. So at that point, you need to outweigh the rebounds and assists over the stocks.
If your league has steals worth 1 point, you need to be out of that league so quickly.
Then I need to leave 2 leagues.
I would never advise you to put money in that league ever.
Oh, I got $10. Good thing I'm winning though. But let's move on to Jordan Poole. I'm gonna pitch this one over to you, Giovanni. What do you think about that pick? Because I agree that he's been garbage, and I almost traded for him.
It's crazy because Jordan Poole, he was my guy last year.
Really?
Yeah, I loved watching. Everyone loved watching Jordan.
I'm
Poole
not everyone.
On the Golden State Warriors.
He's like Underwood with all those carries. Like every single play was a violation of the rules.
Let me add something. Earlier, like last semester, I said that our Washington Wizards were going to be like basically a YMCA team, and everyone clowned on me. And look at them now.
They're still better than the Pistons.
They're still better than the Pistons.
They are. But I just want to
Wizards
say
are
that.
there. The
Look
Wizards
at them.
same
They are
category.
terrible.
That's crazy coming from the guy that compared me to Kyle Kuzma. That's insane. Okay, and then,
You keep going.
no, I was just gonna say, okay, Benedict Mathurin. I'll pitch it over to you, Jeremy. What do you think about that pick? Because he's been like okay. I think it's a good time to cash in on him now. Because I mean the Pacers are playing. Sorry, I just completely pitched it to you, but they're playing Charlotte, Houston, Detroit, Toronto, Golden State, all subpar teams. So I think that's something to would you cash in on him now, or maybe just pass?
Yeah, no, he definitely has potential. Like he's obviously not doing the best, but he's averaging like over 10 points with like 4 rebounds, and like 2 assists. But he's doing solid, I would say, not terrible.
Yeah, and then I think this is my favorite pick, Jalen Johnson. I have him on fantasy. I picked him up on waiver. What do you think about him? I think he's been phenomenal, especially for his value.
Surprise of the year. Other than Tyus Jones of fantasy.
Oh, that's true.
Jalen Johnson is my shocker of the year. He's kind of like as Ezra said, Puka for NFL.
Yeah.
Because he's great defensively.
Nobody expected it.
Yeah, I think that was the perfect comparison, with the exception of like the rookie thing, but that's not in our control. But thank you guys so much for joining us this episode. Great job, Jeremy, for your input as well.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got our surefire picks of the week with just 1 winner. That means 2 losers and 2 people listening to some mariachi. We'll be right back.
Jack, buddy, why are you here?
I don't really understand why I'm here. I got called a delusional fan. I just don't understand why I'm delusional if I think Kirk Cousins had the best mustache in the league.
Well, Jack, buddy, I don't want to be the one to tell you this, but I don't think anybody looks cool in handlebars.
But they're back, man. They're back.
They're not. They're not. Sometimes you just got to face the hard truth. It's right there in front of you. All these people, they're calling you delusional, but sometimes you got to worry about, am I projecting? Is it me? And in this
Let me
case,
tell you something, bud. It could never be me. Anything I say is factual and truth, and that's why the Vikings are going 16-1 this year.
organization, you have to look at your roster and say, I've had Kirk O'Duggins for 6 years. Maybe it's time to move on.
There is no moving on from Kirk Thuggins and Justin Jefferson.
Do you think that maybe this all started just because of a little disappointment?
Nothing has started. This is how I live, and I am not delusional. I'm a prophet.
And we are back struggling with our auditory means. And as you can see, Giovanni and I took an L last week. I'm currently listening to Media Vuelta by Javier Solis. What are you listening to?
I'm listening to Son de la Negra
By who?
by Mariachi Vargas de la, and I don't know how to say the last name.
We're going to have such a hard time with this episode. Ezra, how was your parlay last week?
As you can notice, I'm not listening to any music. This is fantastic because I actually hit on a parlay. And the fact that he tried to throw me under the bus and say I bet too many minuses and I have to do a punishment
You did. There were
randomly.
so many minuses. Oh my God,
randomly
their
without my
trumpets
knowledge.
blaring in my ears.
Randomly without my
No,
knowledge.
he bet for the
This
Pistons.
is exactly what
Or
he
like-
deserves.
No.
This is exactly what they deserve.
You went for the Bucks over the Pistons. This guy is screaming.
Money is money. Money is money.
Money is money. Mariachi's mariachi. But with that being said, I'm going to pitch it over to Ezra with a record of 1-1. What are you going to be talking about this week?
All right, so the winner this week is going to be discussing the Clippers versus the Cavaliers happening tonight. We're taking the Clippers money line at -130. We're talking about a very banged up Cavs team, because this Cavs team is without Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, and even possibly Jared Allen, who picked up a little bit of like a minor injury the other night. I don't see why the Clippers can't win this game. I mean, they're so top heavy right now. They're very good altogether with James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. They're just all actually playing great basketball right now, especially on catch and shoot. They're one of the best catch and shoot teams in the league. I believe 6 of their players have over 40% are shooting 40% from 3 on catch and shoot. And the next, I wanted to take James Harden's over on assists. It's sitting at 8.5. Over the last 10 or so games, I believe he's hit this 8 times. 8 times. So I believe against this Cavs team without their probably best defensive player in Evan Mobley, I would say that he's probably going to be able to get a lot more of this game. It's sitting at -135, so I'm glad that the odds are in my favor. And I want to talk about their total points, because the line's only sitting at -225. I'm absolutely going over that. It is at a -110 to take that right now. I believe that's free money. The Clippers average 124 points per game in their last, 5 or so games. So if we're talking about that, realistically, the Cavs only need to score 100, or the Clippers can definitely go on and score more. I would definitely take those odds.
Okay,
back to you. I know you can't hear me.
Thank you. Yeah, no, great point. The Clippers.
You definitely
the Cavs,
heard everything I said.
I'll pitch mine real quick. It's just because I might explode if I don't. I have a record of 1-1, and I'm going to be talking about the number 4 Houston Longhorns taking on Houston Cougars, taking on the Texas Longhorns in college basketball. I'm taking the spread sitting at +5.5 with the odds sitting at -114. I'm also going to be taking Texas's money line. Yeah, Texas's money line of +180 on top of hold on. On top of Dylan Mitchell getting over 8.5 rebounds with -110 odds. I'm going for a complete underdog sweep. This is so loud. Oh my God. A complete underdog sweep of the Cougars. I just want to get through this as quickly as possible. Just Texas. Okay, Texas has been on a tear. Just beat number 11 Oklahoma in Oklahoma. And by the way, that game was crazy. There were like 3 posters within the span of like 5 minutes, 2 of which being in like 25 seconds. Such a good game. Sorry, Tyler. Horns down. No, I'm kidding, but whatever. But yeah, I'm taking the Longhorns to upset the Cougars. And yeah, that's what I got. And can you hear me?
It's my turn?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. All right, so currently I'm 0-2. This week is the week that this changes.
No.
This will not happen next week, I promise, guys. I have Celtics versus Pelicans, Celtics money line sitting at -340. I also have the total points over at 232 at -110, and Brandon Ingram over on points, rebound, and assists at 30.5. I do believe all their players are playing tonight for the Celtics, meaning them winning the game will be a blowout, and they'll get that over just by themselves. Not by themselves, but with them winning by a blowout. And then also with Brandon Ingram, he's been playing at a sub-level, all-star level, usually the way he does play.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this
probably good basketball.
This is actually a really good song, too.
What do you listen to?
So, yeah, I have Brandon Ingram over on the points, rebound, assists, and Celtics money line. Let's go all the way. Whatever happens next week, just know I will be 1-2.
2, yeah, 1 and 2. Okay, what are you listening to?
I'm listening to Mi Forma de Sentir by Pedro Fernandez.
I'm on Un Millón de Primaveras by Vicente Fernandez, R.I.P. And then also, I just passed by Adios Amor by Christian Nodal. Do you have anything else you want to throw in?
I want to mention how I think it's so funny that Giovanni loses 2 and immediately goes to his favorite team undercover, the Boston Celtics, when he's a Miami Heat fan.
All I heard was my name. What did he say?
So I just wanted to point that out. I know he can't hear me. That's why I wanted to say that.
Okay. Are we doing this next week?
Yes.
Okay.
We're doing it
same time next week?
Same time next week.
Okay.
But you guys are going to be the one listening to mariachi.
No.
I'll still have it. I'll probably do it anyway. But thank you guys so much for watching. This has been a crazy episode. I don't even know what to say. Hopefully we didn't put you guys to sleep because Ty's over there on the couch with his foot sticking out. We'll see you guys next week for another episode of Bets. And until then, go Knights and charge on.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand. they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back, okay? Always locked in, I don't